seen the movie, watched videos online and read horror stories about these extreme ghosts. But are they real or fake? There are many videos on the internet showing footage of poltergeists, but not all may be what they seem. Believers and skeptics argue over what few facts we have. In this documentary, we will separate fact and fiction, look at some of these videos, discuss whether they are believable, and take a closer look at one of the more well-known poltergeist events recorded. Is poltergeist activity real, imagined, or merely deception and trickery? In folklore and parapsychology, a poltergeist, German for noisy ghost, is a type of ghost or other supernatural entity which is responsible for physical disturbances such as loud noises and objects being moved or destroyed. Poltergeist activity has often been believed to be the work of malicious spirits. Early accounts date back to the 1st century. They have traditionally been described as troublesome spirits who haunt a particular person instead of a specific location. Such alleged poltergeist manifestations have been reported in many cultures and throughout the world. They are purportedly capable of pinching, biting, hitting and tripping people. Most accounts of poltergeist describe this movement or levitation of objects such as furniture and cutlery, even people, or noises such as knocking on doors. In a typical poltergeist event, small objects are tossed through the air by unseen forces. Furniture is overturned alongside other disturbances. What could be achieved by tricksters determined to plague the unsuspecting who can turn into dupable witnesses? Many claimed poltergeist events have proved, on investigation, to be pranks. Skeptics say that claimed poltergeist incidents typically originate from an individual who is motivated by mischief or the desire for attention. We can see an example of such apparent unexplainable activity in this footage from an office location. The recording exhibits many of the characteristics said to be typical of a poltergeist manifestation. We see chairs moving, drawers opening, paper flying out of drawers, doors closing and handles rattling, but we don't see anybody doing this. At face value, this activity appears paranormal, but is it really? For security footage, it seems of unusually clear quality and seems unedited given the time counter is continuous. We have to question why security cameras film storeroom areas and corridors rather than working areas, although this doesn't discount the video in itself. Of course, as we will discuss later with the case of the Enfield Poltergeist, the careful use of props could provide the same effects. Time and again, in other poltergeist outbreaks, witnesses have reported an object leaping from its resting place supposedly on its own, when it is likely that the perpetrator had secretly obtained the object sometime earlier and waited for an opportunity to fling it, even from outside the room, thus supposedly proving he or she was innocent. According to research in animalistic psychology, claims of poltergeist activity can be explained by psychological factors such as illusion, memory lapses, and wishful thinking. Attempts have also been made to scientifically explain poltergeist disturbances that have not been traced to fraud or psychological factors. Skeptic and magician Milbourne Christopher found that some cases of poltergeist activity can be attributed to unusual air currents, such as a 1957 case on Cape Cod, where downdrafts from an uncovered chimney became strong enough to blow a mirror off a wall, overturn chairs and knock things off shelves. In this example, filmed in a kitchen, we could probably discount wind given the veracity of objects being thrown around the room at various angles. Again, however, it could be possible to manufacture these effects using transparent material to manipulate these movements. It's worth noting that some of the activity begins outside of the angle of the camera and objects could be forced into its view from the sides of the room. The problem with such footage is that it derives from an uncontrolled environment. In the 1950s, Guy William Lambert proposed that reported poltergeist phenomena could be explained by the movement of underground water causing stress on houses. He suggested that water turbulence could cause strange sounds or structural movement of property, possibly causing houses to vibrate and move objects. Later researchers such as Alan Gould and Tony Cornell tested Lambert's hypothesis by placing specific objects in different rooms and subjecting a house to strong mechanical vibrations. They discovered that although the structure of the building had been damaged, only a few of the objects moved a very short distance. The skeptic Trevor H. Hall criticised the hypothesis, claiming if it was true, the building would almost certainly fall into ruins. Michael Persinger has theorised that seismic activity could cause poltergeist phenomena. However, Persinger's claims regarding the effects of environmental geomagnetic activity on paranormal experiences have not been independently replicated and may simply be explained by the suggestibility of participants. David Turner, a retired physical chemist, suggested that ball lightning might cause the spooky movements of objects blamed on poltergeists. Parapsychologists have also suggested that poltergeist activity can be explained by psychokinesis. So who do you think is right? Can natural processes explain such paranormal events? Would incredible damage be needed to create the same unexplainable situations, or is it just human trickery? In a paranormal context, levitation is the rising of a human body and other objects into the air as a result of supernatural psychic power or spiritual energy. The scientific community states that there is no evidence that levitation exists, and alleged levitation events are explainable by natural causes such as magic trickery, illusion, and hallucination. In the early 20th century, for example, a Welsh spiritualist named Colin Evans publicly claimed to be able to levitate as a result of ghosts, as seen in this photo from 1937, but was exposed as a fraud. He used the cloak of darkness to obscure the fact he jumped into the air and pulled a cord to take a flash photograph. His slightly blurry feet are said to prove this. So, thinking about this, the use of magnets, superconductors, hidden string and transparent equipment could potentially explain sudden, unexplainable movements captured on film or in photographs. The Enfield Poltergeist is one such widely reported case of activity that has seen much criticism. This happened at a house in Enfield, London from 1977 to 1979, involving two sisters, and has been written about in many books and adapted into a movie. Events began when their mother called police claiming her children had seen furniture moving, knocking sounds, loud noises, demonic voices, and had experienced levitation. Paranormal investigators and the press were attracted to the story. The paranormal investigators Gross and Playfair questioned whether the girl's story was genuine. One of the girls was known to have faked hauntings on occasions, being seen to have bent spoons, banged a broom on a ceiling, and interfered with tape recorders. We know magicians can do this, so why not clever girls? Despite considering the possibility of exaggeration or even tricks, the paranormal investigators remained convinced. This led to some mockery from other investigators, especially after the girls admitted to some trickery. Other researchers and investigators have pointed to the possibility of the girls experimenting with ventriloquism. Their recordings have the vocabulary, subject matter and mannerisms known to have been used by the girls. Another suspect activity is examples of levitation. One of the girls was a sports champion, and some of the photos are said to suggest jumping and gymnastics in midair. Perhaps we should also be skeptical of reports of objects moving outside of controlled situations so that natural phenomena can be monitored. Do you think these events could have been staged by girls seeking sensational attention from the media? Or do you think that some truth to these hauntings may have been hidden by the controversy and competing claims by various investigators? Are you skeptical and consider this a hoax, or are you open to the possibilities of truth? What do you think? Whatever the reason, we could say that the public appetite for the paranormal, the attention of the media, and the intelligence of some of these witnesses eager for attention may sensationalize and hide any fragments of truth to poltergeist reports.